At the end of the Second World War, Japan, being one of the countries that had lost, so its empire collapsed in 1945 and the Korean peninsula was assigned to both the USA and the USSR. The territory was divided into two parts by a border named the 38th parallel due to its latitude of 38 degrees north for administrative reasons. The Soviets occupied North Korea, whereas the Americans inherited of South Korea.
This separation was eased by the fact that Korea was already torn between two leader parties dominating the country. The Marxist revolutionaries centered on Kim Il-sung, feeling close to communism, the Soviets and the Chinese regime, and another Western-minded nationalist movement, leaning toward Occidental science, education and industrialism, and with Syngman Rhee as leader. Hence, the USSR and the USA each found a suitable native political tendency for their own policies.
However, the division wasn't meant forever, although North and South couldn't settle a decision on the country's government. In North Korea, the leader began to install a regime based on terror, and many northern inhabitants then flew to the south. This was the start of an endless disagreement. In 1947, the U.S. President Truman made the UN responsible for South Korea. The number of policemen thus increased and provided significant security, but at the same time, Kim Il-sung strengthened his military forces.
To calm the rising tensions, the United Nations General Assembly attempted to organize national elections, but it ended up as a stalemate. In 1948, South Korea set up the government of the Republic of Korea. Meanwhile, North Korea established the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Conflicts started emerging near the 38th parallel and victims began piling up. The USA became worried that the South Korean army was too vulnerable and contributed with light weapons and supplies, whereas the USSR provided armaments and training to the Northern Army.
The spark of this 3-year-long and bloody conflict that became the Korean War was the invasion of South Korea, launched by Kim Il-sung, the communist leader of North Korea, on June the 25th, 1950. Immediately, the UN decided to intervene and several member states sent military assistance to South Korea and its president Syngman Rhee. Among others, Great Britain, some countries of its Commonwealth, and the USA as main actor got involved, whereas the American General Douglas MacArthur was entrusted with the command of the support troops in order to push back the North Koreans.
However, by August, the invader had taken over almost the entire territory of the Republic of Korea, leaving the defensive forces stuck in a small corner of the South Korean land. It is only in September that the USA led an ambitious counter-attack to regain South Korea's grounds up to the 38th parallel and achieved to march on deep into North Korea.
Nevertheless, the spectacular advance near China's regions triggered the fear of the Chinese Communist government of Mao Zedong, which in November agreed on sending thousands of soldiers to help the North Korean army drive the new incomers back southward. The UN forces were hence forced to withdraw towards South Korea, where they strove almost a whole year to reach the 38th parallel once again during spring 1951. At the same period, instability rose amongst the leadership of the US troops. After China threatened the USA to start a full-scale war if they neared the Yalu River again, President Truman struggled to prevent such a situation, whereas General MacArthur called out for an open conflict with the Chinese and was thus fired for insubordination.